Welcome to Tell the Damn Story, the show that explores the many ways to navigate the successes and failures that aspiring and struggling writers face to make your journey that much easier.
Hey, everybody. Yeah, I know this isn't the way the show normally starts because, used to Chris going, hey, and all that kind of stuff, but, it's that time of the season. It's October, at the end of October. It's Halloween. It's the harvest and all that kind of good stuff. And Chris and I were supposed to do this special remote show, where we were going to meet in the Near to Me caves, and we were going to, have like this little Halloween atmosphere, a little spooky stuff and things like that. And I'm here, but and I got all the equipment here and set up a remote system and all that. But anyway, I can't find Chris. That's the big problem here. I'm here and I don't see him. So we're starting off a little differently here. So, well, the other thing is we arranged to have like 5 really great horror authors do a little reading of just a small section of some of their more recent work. And so we were going to, again, cut from one to the other and all that stuff. And again, with this great remote setup here in this wonderful cave here. But like I said, I can't find Chris. So I'm hoping, I'm hoping you guys can hear me. I'm not sure if the signal's, carrying, but if you are, look, why don't one of you guys read a section while I look for Chris, and then we'll figure it out, after that, because, really, it's going to be great. We got Teal James Glenn, we've got Rebecca Cuthbert, we've got Tom Snagowski, we've got Jeannine Acheson, and we have Steven Van Patten. It's going to be great. They're going to read. You're going to enjoy it. All that stuff. But right now, I one of you start reading again if you can hear me, and I'm gonna look for Chris, because it's I'll find him. Don't worry about it. Yeah, I'm gonna find him real quick. Chris? I feel like I'm not alone in here.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the Tell the Damn Story Alex Simmons Halloween Parties continues, this time without Alex. Alex, as you have seen in this episode, is lost in some cave. And we're hoping that if we get a voice he recognizes, it will lure him back. So we have with us for this, I was really going over who could we get? Of course, old friend of the show, Teal James Glenn. He has delighted viewers and Alex on multiple occasions with his information, his amazing knowledge of just the most arcane TV shows and movies we've ever seen. He and Alex just go nuts over that. But today, in honor of Halloween, Teal has agreed to give us a taste of his upcoming book. Now, Teal has written pulp and crime and horror and comedy. He has been the stuntman of stuntmen. He has been a master of weaponry. And now he's about to put out one of the books I'm most excited for in 2024. Look at that, a poem for you, Teal. Hello, Teal. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing excellent, particularly after that introduction. Your $5 will be in the mail immediately for praising.
I was looking forward to it. So we've lost Alex, and I can't, I can't find him. I figured I'd go up.
I told you to tag him.
Yeah, I know. You got to put a bell on or tag him or something. But I was up here in the north, and I can't find him anywhere. And I think maybe the dulcet tones of Teal James Glenn might do the trick. And you have agreed to give us a little taste of Not Born of Woman. When is this book coming out, Teal?
Well, Not Born of Woman from Macabre Inc. Press comes out. The print version November 4 and the electronic November 5. It's up for pre-order now on Amazon.
So this will be a much needed distraction from the other monster movies going on.
Yeah. It's the first book in the Paradise Investigations series.
Can you tell us a little bit about Paradise Investigations, please?
It is 1939, and Adam Paradise is a private investigator in New York, but he has a secret. He is, in fact, the creation of Victor Frankenstein, who, after many years living in the Arctic, has returned to civilization to try and figure out what his place in the world is. And what better way to understand humanity than to set himself up as someone they come to with problems.
Fantastic.
In this first case, Vandoma Kalderash, who is a Roma, comes to him to help recovering of her family luck, which is a necklace, a kosh de bak.
Okay.
And her brother pawned it to cover a gambling debt. And she has asked Adam to go to the gangster and try and negotiate to get it back, because she feels the gangster won't deal with her because he has a very bad opinion of gypsies.
Okay.
And Adam's charge to her is a home-cooked meal, which he has not had for a very long time.
Nicely done.
And so we pick up as Adam enters the home territory of Tony Guido Manzetti, who is the bad guy.
Excellent. And ladies and gentlemen, here it is. Enjoy Teal James Glenn.
Cafe Allegra, where Guido Tony Manzetti held court, was off Mulberry Street in Little Italy. Only short walk from Reggio, so I headed over after Tommy left. It was a storefront with several tables outside where, despite the chill weather, older Italian gentlemen sat, sipped espresso, ate small cakes while they solved the problems of the world and talked of the good old days. The old man watched me approach with hooded eyes, but with too much New Yorkers to say anything or show any surprise. Clouds of cigarette smoke rose over them and swirled around the breeze as dusk settled over the city. The old men acted as if a 7-foot-tall, dark-haired giant in a leather trench coat and gray fedora was an everyday thing. It was one of the things I liked about New York City. A bell over the door rang as I walked in. There was a counter across the room, half a dozen tables with customers seated at them, and a jukebox playing some Caruso record against one wall. The customers were less circumspect than the old men outside, though they kept their surprise at a stranger entering, even one as unusual as I, low-key. The conversation silenced, the heads turned deliberately away from me, and not from fear, but from the need to be able to say, I didn't see nothing, later on if things went bad. And it was the kind of place where I imagine things did go bad now and then. Two torpedoes sat sitting at a table off to the side, trying to look inconspicuous and failing miserably with the bulges in their holstered guns visible under their poorly tailored suits. Their focus on me was undisguised and immediate. Manzetti was seated by himself at a table to one side where he had a clear view of the whole room and was pointedly near an exit door that latched on the inside. He has all his bets covered in case he needs a quick exit. Manzetti was physically small, a little man, but with a large nose and a balding head. He seemed to be struggling to grow a pencil-thin mustache in the shadow of his nose. His presence was not small, however. When he looked up to fix his dark eyes on me, those eyes were crystal clear and showed intelligence behind them. Swirling shades gathered around him like storm clouds, translucent remnants of many souls that had vibrated deep purple and crimson. I could feel the anger from them, but I could not tell whether specific to this man or this place. I did know it was from their lives that had been taken violently. I was used to encountering such things, but the sheer intensity that they projected distracted me for a moment. Manzetti regarded my moment of hesitation and looked to one of the seated goons with a silent command, so that the guy rose and stepped up to block my way. He moved with a predator's grace. The goon was wide enough, though his head came barely to my collarbone. I'm here to see Mr. Manzetti about some business, I said in a level tone. He ain't here to do business with no freak, the goon said. He had stone-cold eyes and a no-nonsense sneer. I give him credit that he was not the least cowed by my appearance. His mistake. I shot out a right hand, gripped his throat faster than he could grab for his gun or my arm. I lifted him off the floor with casual strength and looked down at Manzetti, even as the other torpedo jumped to his feet and drew his own pistol. The gunman could not fire at me, however, as I made sure if he shot at me, he was endangering his boss in the direct line of fire. Manzetti, unruffled, took a puff of his cigarette, regarded me with a stoic expression. After a few moments, he blew smoke out of his large nose and sighed. I'm called Adam Paradise. I have money business for you, Miss Manzetti. Do we talk? Let that boob Mickey down and try not to break him. Take a seat, he said. It better be worth my time. I set Mickey down without looking back at him and sat across from the loan shark, watching two torpedoes and reflective surfaces of the tin wall behind Manzetti. They stood staring at me with confused expressions for a few beats before returning to their seats. The conversations of the rest of the customers went back to a normal level, but I could feel their sidelong glances. Talk, big man, the gangster said. A man named Nico Calderash owes you money for some gambling losses. He gave you a family heirloom as surety on that debt. I want to redeem it for him and pay his debt in full. The gypsy's a loser, pal. All gamblers are losers. They ought to know that house always wins. He sipped his espresso, took a long drag on his cigarette again, then grinned. It was an expression that didn't suit his face well. But Nico's a bigger loser than most. He got that monkey on his back really bad. You throw money down a hole to bail him out. He's a lost soul. No soul is truly lost, I said. None in any case that is cared for. And Nico has those who care for him. Like you, by proxy. You got big steel ones, buddy. What makes you think I'll give you the dingus? I was aware that two torpedoes were leaning forward in their chairs and the balls of their feet, ready for a call to action. You're a smart businessman, sir. I'm offering you a profit on the necklace. I will give you 10% over the value you're holding it for, and everyone can be happy. You think my purpose in the world is to make people happy? The most intelligent men, like the strongest, find their happiness where others would find only disaster, I quoted. It's better to bring happiness than disaster. He laughed derisively. You think your little carnival act with Mickey is impressive? You think that tough face of yours means anything to me? I don't really think I mean anything to you, but it doesn't matter if you want to do business, cash money here and now. I thought it was the way you like to work. Let me tell you, tall mister, he leaned forward to stare directly into my eyes. His voice was a death rattle whisper. No matter how tough your face is, there's a baseball bat built to fit. I let myself give a short laugh. So, you don't have it then? Who did you sell it to? This startled him, and he sat back. How? If you had it, sir, you would have tried to jack the price up over 10%. Quite a bit, I suspect, as a matter of course. I'll pay you a finder's fee of $50 to tell me who you sold it to. He slapped the table, and everyone else in the room jumped. His torpedoes came to their feet before they realized Manzetti was laughing. Yep, balls of steel, he snorted and crushed out his cigarette. Okay, big boy, put down money, $100. I reached into my coat slowly, as not to excite the two gunmen, withdrew $100 and set it on the table. He nodded as if I'd confirmed his opinion of me. I sold a gypsy trinket to Otto Dorfman uptown. He runs a pawn shop on 8th Avenue in Chelsea, maybe a couple other side businesses. Don't know how he knew about it, but he came to me and offered twice what the kid offered me. I told the kid the same thing. Nico tried to get it back last night, but he didn't have cash up front, so I had Mickey show him the door. You're a very smart businessman, Mr. Manzetti. Don't think I'm not, pal. We're a soft touch. Not a mistake anyone could make, sir. Not twice, anyway. But you still owe me after this. Owe you? The vig isn't always money, Mr. Paradise. I stood up. Thank you for your businesslike manner, Mr. Manzetti. I went to the door, keeping an eye on Mickey and the nearby partner, both of whom were staring daggers at me. Mickey walked to open the door with me with a cold smile on his lips. I'll remember you, pal. The purple race that swirled around him were very specific. There was a clear miasma of death about this man. The phantoms of the dead had unfinished business with him. It would do for you to forget me, I suggested with a genial tone. I've been known to induce nightmares. I'll bet, Frankenstein. We'll talk about it when I see you again. I almost said something harsh, but restrained myself and said simply, as you wish, have a good day. I was aware of him staring as I departed, and pretty sure he would have shot me in the back if it would not have inconvenienced his employer to make commotion. I did not feel entirely out of danger till I was well down the block. I really do hate it when they call me by my creator's name. I blame that Karloff fellow.
All right, this has been Teal James Glenn I am so excited to get ready for Not Born of Woman, which is coming out very early next month. You can pre-order it now, I would assume.
On Amazon and Barnes and Noble. Yep.
There you go. So grab that, and we're going to keep looking for Alex.
I'm still trying to find Chris here. I think, Chris, I'm really hoping you can hear me because I've been searching around in this cave here now, and I still haven't found anybody. I tell you what, let's do one more thing here. Let's have Rebecca Cuthbert. Yeah, Rebecca, if you can hear me, and I'm hoping somebody can, why don't you read the next your story? Yeah, a section from your story, and I'm going to continue looking for Chris because this is getting. You read your story, Rebecca, and if you don't mind, would you if you don't mind, would you like I have my cell phone with me. Why don't you see if you could hone in on the signal or something, okay? Because this is getting really this is getting really be a problem here. You heard? Okay, Chris, Chris, are you out there?
All right, so I'm excited to be reading from my new collection. This just came out this month, just this October. It's called Self-Made Monsters. It's a hybrid collection of feminist horrors with an introduction by the esteemed and fantastic Laurel Hightower. So I've got poems, I've got stories, both full-length short stories, flash fiction stories, and micro stories, so little tiny bites in between the longer pieces. And I'm excited to read today a short story called Dare You, and also a micro piece that is Halloween themed called I Take. This is called Dare You, and it's about a little girl named Jade who is trying really hard to fit in at her new middle school. They had told Jade that accepting the dare would make her cool, that it would impress them. So she said yes, and that's how she found herself. After dark, on the Friday night that marked the official start of winter break, treading the dusty floorboards of the abandoned Slater house on the far side of town. Jade's town, but not always. She and her mom had moved there just 3 weeks before. The junior high was smaller than her old one, with cliques established since elementary school. But this friend group, Kaylee and Beth and Margot and Frankie and Tim, were going to let her join, as long as she could prove herself first. It was as cold inside the Slater house as it was out. Most of the windows were broken, and frosty air moaned in through the empty casements. Jade's snow boots were too heavy for tiptoeing, but she tried to walk carefully. Some of the floorboards were swollen with rainwater, and here and there they'd rotted through. Her friends had let her bring a flashlight, but not her phone. "No calling for your mommy, wuss," Margot had said, and the others laughed. Jade hadn't wanted to hand over her phone, but what could she do? She'd already accepted the dare. She made it across the space that was probably a dining room, then through the living room, wallpaper hanging down from the walls like shed skin, twin chandeliers dangling low at strange angles, and to the base of the wooden staircase. Now she had to go up. She tested the first step. It creaked but held. She heard giggling outside. The others probably thought she wouldn't do it, that she wouldn't climb the stairs to the second story and go to the master bedroom where old man Slater killed his wife and then himself, then lean out the window and wave. Jade knew what she'd say when she did it. She'd yell down, "Take that, chicken shits," and she'd laugh at them, then swagger back outside and tell them it was no big deal. She'd even practiced her shrug. She said it to herself quietly as her other foot left the floor for the second step. No big deal. Another step. Creak. No big deal. The beam of her flashlight picked out cobwebs, shards of glass, a pile of newspapers on the landing in front of her where the stairs turned. She took another step and then another. She was doing it. She reached the landing when the pile of newspapers moved. A rat, the size of her snow boot, skittered out from the yellowed pages, its high-pitched squeal deafening in that echoey space. Jade jumped back. Her boot broke through the warped wooden step where she landed. She sunk to her bleeding thigh, leg dangling in the empty space below the staircase. She screamed, dropped her flashlight to scrabble for the rail, but she wasn't fast enough. The weight of her body was too much for the ruined steps. She fell. On the way down, she cracked her chin. The impact snapped her head back, gashing it open on the splintered wood. Her heavy winter coat didn't do much to cushion her landing on the packed earth of the basement floor. She wanted to call for help, but her voice didn't work. She didn't know if her eyes were open or closed. She couldn't hear the wind anymore. She couldn't hear the others talking or laughing either. She couldn't have known that they were already gone, that they'd dropped her phone and run away as soon as her scream had ripped from the guts of that dilapidated old house. Jade felt very tired, but not very cold. She spent her last conscious moment wondering if she'd get another chance at the dare, or if this was it, if she'd blown her only shot at having friends. Then, quiet as the snow falling outside, she drifted off. All right, and that is Dare You. Next up, I'm going to read the micro piece called I Take. And this is Halloween themed, and it's for all of you trick-or-treaters, and it's for all of you parents who are stuck at the door passing out the candy. All right. The kiddies don't know that when I give to them, I take for myself. A little of their essence, their energy, traded for measly chocolate bars. I drink in their shining eyes behind skull masks and grease paint. When they say trick or treat, I swallow puffs of their candy-scented breath, sweet as it glides across my tongue and down my throat, into my lungs, my bloodstream. Beneath the sugar buzz, can they feel their bones soften just a bit? Do they notice they're shorter, lighter, and tired, so tired? I become more beautiful every time I open the door. And that is I Take from Self-Made Monsters.
Hey, I'm back here. Yeah, and I'm feeling a whole lot better now. A little bit more secure if you catch my drift. I hope the show has been continuing. We had set up for these wonderful authors to read to you in advance here, so it was just a matter of coordinating the signals and all that. So hopefully that this is going out to you and you've been enjoying the readings. But yeah, we still have more for you. That's really what it is. As a matter of fact, if everything is going according to plan, liar. If everything's still going according to plan, why don't we hear from Snagowski and Jeannine Acheson? Yes, why don't you guys read and I'm going to start really. The heck with finding Chris. I'm just going to try and find my way out of this cave here. Yeah. So let me just. That might be. Yeah, that might be the way to go. I'm just going to keep going, and you guys just. You guys do what you can here.
I'm Tom Snagowski, and I'm going to be doing a reading from Grim Death and Bill, the Electrocuted Criminal, which the latest edition of this book will be released shortly within the next couple of weeks from Bad Hand Books. So you can actually get your hands on a copy very, very shortly. And I'm going to do a reading on the opening of Grim Death and Bill, the Electrocuted Criminal, by me and Mike Mignola, creator of Hellboy. I must look a sight, Bentley Hawthorne thought as he stood in the doorway of his family home, adorned in a ragged black suit, slouch hat atop his head, face hidden by a grinning skull mask. I could just imagine the thoughts racing through his manservant's mind at the moment. I seemed to have misplaced my key. Bentley said as he reached up a gloved hand and removed the gruesome mask. Dear God, sir, Pym exclaimed, clutching the heavy bathrobe about his throat. You gave me a fright. I had no idea. A sudden wave of overwhelming fatigue caused Bentley to slump against the doorframe, interrupting the butler's rant. You're hurt, Pym observed, and quickly reached out to take the young man's arm. Come inside. You'll catch your death. Too late for that, Bentley muttered, and then chuckled as he was drawn into the warmth of the foyer. The servant closed the door on the frigid morning rain and turned his full attention on Bentley. Here, let me look at you, he said. You're bleeding. Yes, but not all of the blood is mine. Some of it is Monkey's. Monkey's? Bentley nodded, trained to commit acts of murder. Wouldn't have believed it myself if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes. Furry devils wielding straight razors and... Monkeys with straight razors, Pym asked incredulously. There was a look in the manservant's eyes. Bentley knew it well. He'd seen it so many times over the many years the two men had been together. First, when he'd been horribly sick as a child, and most recently as Pym worried about what strangeness had come over his charge of late. Where on earth have you been? The butler asked, a touch of petulance in his tone. I thought we were tired hours ago. The skull mask dropped from where Bentley had held it, clutched beneath the arm of his jacket, the visage of death grinning up at them from the marble floor where it landed. The ghost of a murdered innocent roused me from the comfort of my bed, he explained as he reached down for the mask. His black-gloved fingers hooked the eye holes, but the effort nearly cost him his balance. Pym rushed closer, placing a supporting grip upon his master's elbow. Perhaps we should call a doctor. No need, Bentley said quickly. All I require is a warm bath, and then to slip beneath the covers of my bed and into the Morpheus's soothing embrace. I'll soon be right as rain. He forced a smile to lighten the mood, but Pym was having none of it. Bentley, sir, I don't understand what... It is my burden alone to bear, Pym, the young man interrupted, placing a comforting hand on his servant's shoulder. Yours is the preparation of that bath I've been yearning for since I first encountered those filthy monkeys. Have I told you how much I despise monkeys, Pym? The butler looked as though he might burst, a multitude of questions desperate to come forth, but he held his tongue. I'll draw that bath, was all he said as he turned and walked away. A wise decision, the young man thought as he watched Pym head for the stairs. For to know the world within which Bentley existed was to tempt the touch of madness.
I'm Jeannine Acheson, and today I'll be reading the very beginning of Halloween Head by me, Tom Snagowski, with art by Mr. Hope. Brian Creepy didn't just love Halloween. He loved Halloween. Some kids think Christmas is best with all the presents, colorful decorations, and the fat guy with the ho, ho, ho. Others prefer their birthdays with more presents, parties, and blowing out candles on their cakes. Still others feel you can't beat the last day of school with the promise of summer fun to come. But not Brian Creepy. Oh no. All his adoration was saved for October the 31st. Sure, he thought Christmas was pretty awesome. Birthdays were always great for a gift or two, and summer vacations were the perfect time to speed up preparation for the greatest holiday in all the land. And we're not talking about Arbor Day. There was never a time when Brian wasn't thinking about Halloween. When one Halloween drew to a close, he was already planning for the next, marking his wall calendar as the countdown to his favorite holiday began anew. And in between counting off the days, there were all sorts of important things that needed to be done, like tending the soil, weeding, watering, and watching for the first signs of pumpkin growth to appear in his backyard pumpkin patch. There was also the meticulous process of deciding what his latest costume might be and how he'd go about creating it from scratch. Giant radioactive platypus with flamethrower breath? Maybe. Decapitated hat salesman? Perhaps. Vegan zombie cowboy? A distinct possibility. He would even revise his map of the route he took through his neighborhood, designating the houses where the best candy was handed out. 5 grinning skulls for full-size candy bars versus 1 for bite-size. There was barely enough time to do all the things between Halloweens, but Brian managed, and after all his hard work throughout the year, the day he looked forward to the most was almost here. The night before, he'd been sure to set his alarm clock to go off extra early, but Brian was awake long before it rang. Bounding from his bed, he hopscotched across the room, miraculously avoiding the random Lego pieces and action figure body parts strewn about the bedroom floor, and landed in front of the large calendar hanging on the wall. Today's the day, Spencer, Brian said, eagerly tapping the box at the end of the month with the black number 31 displayed in the corner. It was the only square that hadn't been crossed off yet. Aren't you excited, boy? Woof, said the little dog on Brian's bed. Spencer was Brian's 2-year-old French bulldog, and he loved Halloween almost as much as Brian did, as evidenced by the pup's habit of wearing a different mask and cape daily. Me too, Brian said, leaving the calendar and going to the chair from the corner of the room where he had carefully laid out his costume and Spencer's the night before. First, we'll put your costume on, and then I'll get into mine. The little black and white dog with the huge bat-like ears jumped down from the bed and came to sit before his boy, tiny nub of a tail wiggling excitedly for what was to follow. Here's your mask, Brian said, taking the bright orange strip of fabric and tying it around the dog's blocky head, and your cape. He draped the pumpkin-colored cloak across Spencer's tiny shoulders and snapped it closed at his throat. How's that? Brian asked. Spencer ran over to the mirror on the closet door for a look. Woof, he said, obviously pleased with his appearance, and trotted back. Looking good, Brian said as the dog walked in circles, giving him full view of his superheroic splendor. If I was a villain, I wouldn't want to mess with you. Woof, woof, grrr, woof. Yeah, you're right, Brian said. I think the Cosmic Pumpkin is an awesome name. Maybe you'll have your own first issue someday. Spencer beamed. The idea of having his adventures chronicled in a monthly comic book series apparently appealed to the Frenchie. Now that you're all set, it's time for me to get ready, Brian said, taking the neatly folded outfit from the chair and holding it up in front of him. This year, I'm going back to basics. What do you think? Woof, woof. It's a classic, right? Said Brian with a smile, slowly nodding. Skeletons are always cool. Elizabeth, Brian's older sister, looked up from her phone as he came into the kitchen. What do you think? Brian asked, spinning in the doorway. Oh my gosh, Elizabeth said, shaking her head as she went back to her phone. You're such a dork. You're just jealous. Don't you look cute? Their mother said, standing by the toaster, waiting for a frozen waffle to pop. Skeletons aren't cute, Mom, Brian said, rolling his eyes as he opened the refrigerator door and took out orange juice. Well, I think they are, she said, just as the waffle was ejected from the toaster and onto a plate. Here's your breakfast, skeleton kid.
Okay, I'm almost out of here. And I just want to tell you very quickly, we got one more great writer coming up. So, Chris, I hope you introduced him. If you didn't, I'm introducing great horror writer, a fantastic person named Steven Van Patten. Steve, take it away, please. Somebody take it away. I'm out.
Hello, this is Steven Van Patten. Hello. As per the request of my good friend Chris Ryan, I'm going to hit you all off with a little horror story here. So let's see. I decided to give you an excerpt of B-Train Blues, which is about your everyday hardworking African-American man who ends up on the subway while 3 basically racist guys are picking on a Muslim woman. And he can't tolerate that, so he steps in, and then things kind of go left. Trust me, it's a lot more Halloween than you might think. All right, so anyway, I'm going to start a timer here and begin. Leave the lady alone, he said, in the most authoritative voice he could muster. It didn't come out as good as he'd hoped. His throat had dried up after 2 steps forward. Mind your business, Denzel. Those were the first words Kenneth heard from the 3rd kid. You were pretending not to hear us earlier. Now all of a sudden you're some fucking hero. Oh, so they were talking shit about me. Okay, I got this. He was wearing headphones earlier. The woman in the burqa turned in his direction, staring at him in what he assumed was gratitude. Even though she was fully covered, Kenneth could see she was trembling. You should probably do as he says, mister. The more polite of the racists suggested. There are 3 of us, after all. I count 2 3/4, Kenneth retorted as he pointed toward the plastic appendage. What happened? You lose your arm prepping for the weekly cross burning? I'll have him tear your fucking throat out, you nosy, uppity black piece of shit. The douchebag, number one, shouted as he pointed at his friend's hooks. As the boys stepped forward, various scenarios flashed in Kenneth's mind. One where the train were to pull into Brooklyn just in time for new passengers to find his lifeless body lying next to the Muslim ladies. Another where a cop is delivering the bad news to friends and family. Still, a third vision had him surviving the fight, only to end up being blamed for the whole thing and arrested. Yet and still, he couldn't have sat there in good conscience and just let these dumb boys rail on a defenseless woman. He hadn't been raised like that. Kenneth half expected douchebag to throw the beer can, so when it came hurtling at him, Kenneth was able to dodge it with a quick jerk to his left. Droplets of beer splattered across the left side of his jacket as the third guy came, made his way, and swung at him. A grazing blow across Kenneth's chin. It had been forever since someone had dared to attempt to punch him in the face, and for a moment, the world seemed to slow down. With all the strength he could muster, he shoved the third guy hard into douchebag, sending them both tumbling to the train car floor. By the time he turned to polite racist, it was too late. Hardened plastic struck Kenneth on the side of his face, cutting in a scar and creating a bruise across his cheek as he was knocked backward. Kenneth fought to stay conscious and get to his feet. As he reeled, he noticed the woman's shuddering had turned to full-on convulsions. There was another noise as if the burqa were ripping. Ah, don't tell me these racist assholes are right and this woman's about to blow us up. Polite racist stood over Kenneth, seeming to deliver another blow to his head when the woman screamed loud enough for his eardrums to vibrate. As the scream continued, it morphed into a roar, animalistic, guttural, primal. The entire train car shook. Polite racist turned towards the sound, which gave Kenneth the chance to kick the boy in the groin, sending him falling backwards towards his friends. The center of the burqa ripped open, naked breasts all but shriveled as they turned from brown and supple to furry and gray. As the rest of the outfit fell away, a fang-filled snout pushed out from the lady's face. Her now exposed arms went through the same change the chest had, as maple syrup-colored human skin gave way to more icy gray fur and lupine features. As the transformation continued, the three young men, who once considered themselves to have the advantage, were now in full retreat. Terrified and tripping over each other like a bad vaudeville act, they made it to the opposite side of the train car, only to find the door was locked. Trapped, they banged on the glass and metal door, screaming for help as they tried to get the attention of the people in the next car. And there you have it, folks. You want to read the rest? Hell at the Way Station by me and Mark Abbott. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. And take care, everybody. Happy Halloween.
Okay, wow. See, I made it out of the cave, everybody. Yeah, that's right. That was, it was, well, it was stimulating. It was stimulating is what it was, but I made it out of the cave, and I hope you've been enjoying the readings from the great authors who stopped by here today, and this has been really wonderful. And now what I can do is I can go home now. That's what I'm going to do. You all have a great holiday. Do whatever you want to do because I'm getting the heck out of here. Where's the car? Where's the car?